Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jennifer Dunn, CEO and co-founder of Boonifu Learning for Life. And I have to say, if anyone had told me during my days as an urban school counselor that I go from tracking students' transcripts to a director at the National Office for School Counselor Advocacy at the College Board to becoming a business owner, I would have said, sure, you're right, after finishing scheduling about 500 students and doing course scheduling changes. But here we are, and there's a reason for that. You see, Boonifu, which is a minority-owned business, was born from a simple but powerful observation. Our urban school systems aren't broken. They're just designed for a different era. As a former school counselor who watched students navigate these complex systems, I knew we needed to build bridges, not just to point out gaps. There's an interesting article that I was reading that was by the Council of Great City Schools that asked a profound question about urban school districts. They asked, are urban public schools windows of opportunity or merely mirrors of society inequities? It's a question that keeps me up at night and probably many of our panelists up at night, especially those of us working in large urban districts. But here's what I believe. I learned from my mentor. Her name was Patricia Martin. She taught me during my time at the College Board National Office of School Counselor Advocacy. When we are equipped, our school counselors with the right systems, supports, and leadership skills, they become powerful change agents. Pat's unwavering belief in transformative power of counselors counselors has shaped not only my career, but the very essence of the discussion today. That's why today's webinar is all about urban school counseling leadership, systems thinking for under-recognized students. It is so important, and frankly, it's all a tribute to Pat's legacy. We're going to explore how school counseling district director leaders can revolutionize their approach to supporting under-recognized students and their families. And trust me, with our amazing panel, and I'm so excited to introduce our panel of experts. Now it's time for you to go ahead and get out your notes. So let's start out with an incredible leader who is changing the game in urban school counseling. First, we're going to have Dr. Joyce Brown introduce herself. Then we'll have next Dr. Tiffany Gilmore, and then finally Dr. Dana Jackson will follow up. Joyce?
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this event. My name is Joyce Brown, and I'm thrilled that you have joined us to discuss a topic that's near and dear to my heart, urban school counseling leadership. You see, my entire career has been spent at Chicago's public schools, a large urban district with a lot of challenges, but a lot of success for school counselors. What we know across the United States is that the majority of students reside in urban districts. And so it is here that we can create systems and implement practices to achieve the greatest impact on student success. That's what school counselors are good at doing, making kids successful. Since retiring and not being tired, I've had the opportunity to spend a great deal of time introducing the idea of school counselor leadership to administrators and counselors, and traveling across the nation to support counselors who are stepping up to lead change. What we know and understand is that across the education landscape, counselors are playing a major pivotal role with helping students K through 12 achieve career and college success. And they are stepping into leadership roles to accelerate student achievement outcomes. It is for this reason that we are excited today to discuss the importance of one key segment of the work, urban school counseling leadership, from the perspective of the district director role. When school counselors are elevated to district leadership positions, they must be ready to make a significant difference. And this is often a challenging task. Why? Because most of our pre-counselor training programs do not focus on providing counselor leadership strategies such that we can support organizational change through the strategic use of data that enables counselors to lead efforts to change the lives and trajectory of students after they graduate from high school. Since 1996, this work has been highlighted in the work of the Ed Trust and the Transforming School Counseling movement that's been led by Jennifer's mentor and mine as well, Pat Martin, who took this work from the Ed Trust and continued it through the National Office of School Counselor Advocacy. I had the privilege of being in the first cohort of urban school counseling, the Urban School Counseling Initiative districts, and it was a game changer for me. In 2005, I made the shift from being a 12-year teacher and a 20 plus year school counselor in a large urban high school in Chicago. I left my school home and became the district director of the third largest district in the United States, Chicago Public Schools. At that time, the district had a half a million students who attended over 130 high schools and over 700 K through first through eighth elementary schools. These students were serviced by 400 high school counselors and 700 grades K through 8 elementary counselors. I think a lot about school counselor leadership because of Pat Martin. I, like she, want counselors to embrace their power so they can help students who come from where I come from succeed. Urban districts with high poverty rates and multiple family challenges. In urban districts, the school counselors, in many instances, is all the students have to help them. I was faced with the challenge of implementing a district wide counseling program with only the knowledge of a school level counselor. This is why this panel is excited to share with you the many experiences that we faced and overcame as we transferred to that central office leadership position. At the central office, district leaders must establish advocacy conditions through the school counselor role to accelerate student success. This requires us to fully embrace the power of our leadership position so we can produce equitable educational outcomes for all students. This is the focus of today's conversation. We will center our thoughts on systems thinking and share innovative ideas that lead to student success because of the role of school counselor district leadership. We hope to provide insight into what you need to know to be an effective district leader through sharing concerns and challenges that we faced when we assumed the position of an urban counselor district director. Back to you, Jennifer.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and follow up with Dr. Gilmore and then Dr. Jackson. You can go ahead and introduce yourself. Oh, you're on mute, Dr. Gilmore.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tiffany Gilmore. I'm the Executive Director of Guidance and Counseling for Garland ISD. Garland ISD is the second largest district in Dallas County. We proudly serve over 52,000 students in our 68 schools within the Tri-Cities of Rowlett, Garland, and Saxe. Although we're a large urban school district, we pride ourselves on maintaining our rich traditions and keeping a close-knit community that feels like a small town. Our Board of Trustees and Superintendent Dr. Lopez adopted one goal, which was to ensure that all of our students graduate prepared for college, careers, and life. We are a B-rated district with a 92% graduation rate, and over 74% of our families are economically disadvantaged, with 37% of our students being emergent bilingual students. We have 148 school counselors, 15 licensed mental health professionals, and a central staff team of 6 that includes a counselor, 3 counselor facilitators, 1 responsive service administrators, 2 paraprofessionals, and 1 counseling coordinator. Thank you.
And good afternoon, good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Dana Jackson. I'm the Associate Superintendent of Student Support Services in Grand Prairie ISD. Grand Prairie is located in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in between Dallas and Arlington. In our district, we have 26,000 students, a little bit smaller than Garland. We have 36 schools. We have a very diverse population with 70% of our students are Hispanic, 16% African American. One of the highlights in our district is that we are an innovative district of choice. We have early college high schools, P-Tech high schools. Also, we have fine arts programs at the elementary and high school levels, several blue ribbon schools, and just a plethora of just different CTE opportunities for our students. Our goal in Grand Prairie ISD is to make sure that we find a fit that students are interested in. And if students are interested in things, they're more likely to succeed. One of the things that I'm just so very proud about being in this position is that I am a counselor. Many times in the position in which I sit, you don't have a counselor voice in that position. So I'm proud of my district for giving a counselor an opportunity to lead in the areas of counseling, discipline, attendance, all those things that we do in this particular role. And a little bit about my background. I am a product of an urban school. I graduated from Los Angeles Unified School District. I am an HBCU grad, Tuskegee University, hopefully HBCU on the call. And I've just got an opportunity to work in many schools as a teacher, a counselor, administrator, and at the district level. And I'm so happy that you guys have joined us today.
Thank you. Like I said before, we have an excellent panel today. And I know you all are ready to dive right into hearing from them. If you have questions, we definitely want to hear from you. You can use the comments and go ahead and type in your question there, and I'll make sure that we get to it. So already they've talked about the context or understanding the challenges of a large urban school district. And I just want to emphasize those a little bit more because these leaders are navigating, high poverty rates. They're navigating large bureaucracies and infrastructure. So as you're thinking about each of the questions that I ask, and if you're looking to be a leader at the district level, you want to think about how are they navigating? What skills do you need in order to lead a system? Making a system-wide approach. So the first question I have is really about differentiating what a school-level school counselor does at a campus level, at an elementary, middle, or high school, to differentiating what you do at the district level. So what are the key differences between a system-level approach and a school-level approach in counseling? And we're going to go ahead and start with Dr. Gilmore.
Absolutely. So I believe that a system level approach to school counseling really emphasizes a broader educational ecosystem, which includes policies, district-wide programming, and community resources. So collaboration with internal, external stakeholders to create preventative measures, finding ways to build sustainable solutions while still advocating for systemic change across the district. Whereas a school level approach is more centered on the individual school, the individual needs tailored to that specific student. And that's something that school counselors do on a daily basis as they're helping students identify what their academic strengths are, what their weaknesses are, providing those resources and strategies to help them improve their own student performance and helping the overall campus. From a systems level approach, some of the things that we've done or I've done as executive director in my team is really examine district level policies, state level policies to identify what is the role and responsibility of school counselors for us in our district. For example, over 50 times in our local and legal policies within our district, the word school counselor has presented itself. And by going through those policies and really helping to streamline, what does that look like for a school counselor? What are they expected to do? How does that work alongside other areas or other departments who have similar roles? How to navigate and have those conversations so that our school counselors who are on the front lines working directly with students are not trying to clarify what they are supposed to do. It's allowed us to help educate other departments, to help educate principals, to be able to really lean in and use a school counselor in the appropriate way to be able to best serve the students so that the school counselors can do everything that they need to do at the campus level to help students feel safe, valued, and to optimize learning opportunities for kids.
Thank you. Dr. Brown, I'm going to have you go next because you do a lot of training for leaders as school counselors to help them to understand what a system is. So I want you to talk a little bit about that.
Sure, Jennifer. It begins with establishing systems to support and elevate the school counselor presence. And at the core of that is what Tiffany mentioned, the job description. What I see across the nation is that they're not solid job descriptions for school counselors, such that it outlines the roles and responsibilities. And this leads to confusion, such that principals and others don't know what we know and are able to do. So that was one of the first things I did when I took over as district leader, was to look at the policies and that were governing the role of the school counselor. In many instances, I was able to influence changing some of those policies to allow us to do a better job of our work. But what this really enabled me to do is to meet with everyone on that organizational chart. And you can imagine how the Chicago Public Schools org chart looks. And so I as a district director, met with everyone on that org chart to explain and share with them that counselors were working on student achievement goals, and we could help them reach the goals that they had set for their department. And that was really an innovative practice. We had principal meetings. I was able to be on their agendas every single month to say what counselors were doing and to really clarify that roles. And that really elevated our presence and got the attention of everybody across the district, because really people think that we just do mental health, but we have to maybe make sure that we as district leaders say, no, we're helping all students succeed and to reach their educational goals, and hear how counselors can help, especially around using data. The data helped us form the systems of practice. And many times the data systems are not user-friendly for school counselors. So we were able to build out the data system such that counselors had access to data and they could get lists of students to then begin the work. And as I work across the nation in so many districts, I find this is the case. The data systems are very complicated. Counselors have to do too many clicks to get at and identify the students who really need the help. So establishing these systems of practice, we had 8 systems that we established that were uniform. There were PowerPoints, handouts, data collection techniques, lesson plans, so that the consistent practices went across the entire district, so that no one was left behind and there was not inequitable delivery of counseling services.
So, I know when we were talking about this particular question, one of the biggest things, and I'm going to let you talk, Dr. Jackson, because your position as an associate superintendent of support services is so key to making sure that the school counselor at the district level, who's the leader, can do their job. And so I do want you to talk about what's the difference between what is needed for the school counselor leader than what's at the school, and talk about your perspective.
I think some of the difference that I see, coming from school as a school counselor and then being at the district office, is making sure that you're educating people about what you do. Many times people think of a counselor in the lens of the counselor that they had when they were in high school, and that might not always be something positive. So at the district level, educating my peers to let them know this is what counseling about. We follow the ASCA model. This is how we can support the programs in which you are doing. Let us see the data, and this is how we can work in our area in order to help your department and ultimately help the success of schools. One of the things when you transition from the campus to the district office, many times you want to be like, okay, all the things that I didn't like at school, I'm going to get into the district office and change it all at one time. And if you do that, you won't be successful. It's about building relationships. It's about showing people how you bring and add value into the conversation. If you have a seat at the table, you need to bring value to the table. And so just making sure you're aware of that. At the counselor seat at the campus level, counselors your counselors are our biggest advocates. If you have a school counselor at the campus level that can't articulate what they do, it's really hard at the district level to make sure that we're advocating. So making sure not only are we telling other departments what our role is, but making sure that counselors are clear of what their role is and how they can look at the campus level and find areas in which they can help support and improve student achievement.
So you all talked a lot about role. You talked a lot about mental health models. You talked about the ASCA model. And so the next question I want to ask is, how does the urban experience necessitate a different outlook than the typical school counseling model that we've seen? I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Dr. Jackson, to kind of give us that outlook, because you talked about how you need to be able to articulate your role. But how is that now different than the typical counseling model?
I think it's different because depending on, and I'm not going to generalize urban schools, but I know that many of them in the area that I am in, we have, anywhere from 50 to 70% or more free and reduced population. So there's no room for chance when you're working in an urban school district. Your goal is to make sure when those students leave your school that they're able to earn a living wage, that they're able to be successful, that they're able to break the chains of poverty, that they're able to make sure that they are productive members of society. So in an urban school district, that's a must. And you have to make sure that your comprehensive counseling program aligns with that end goal in mind, starting from pre-K all the way to 12th grade. If we're starting things at 12th grade, we've lost the game, we're too late. So just for me, at an urban school district, your impact is great. You are really changing and setting the tone of a community and really the tone of a family structure. We have many first generation college students or first generation career students. And so we have an obligation to make sure that we're breaking down all the barriers that may confront them so that they can be successful, because it's bigger than them. They are their family, they are the community. So that is one really huge responsibility that urban counselors must think about every day when they're interacting with families and they're interacting with students.
Mm-hmm. I just felt powerful, empowering. It's like we're legacy builders. School counselors are legacy builders. Dr. Gilmore.
Absolutely. I believe that our counselors really must have a good understanding and respect the diverse cultural experiences of students from diverse backgrounds. And I think within an urban setting, that's so important because, as Dr. Jackson mentioned, the dynamics are just different, from the family dynamics to the community dynamics. So it's so important to look beyond just the academic needs of the students, really understanding the needs within that community, because that's what's going to be able to help students and families kind of balance between the academic advising that counselors provide and that post-secondary advising, because our school counselors make that difference for our families. And oftentimes the education piece is not just of the students. There's an education of the entire family, and ensuring that their needs are met as it relates to those wraparound services, and being able to connect the community with the families, so that the counselors really understand that they not only serve a role, but that the families are often counting on us to be the educators for them, to kind of help them navigate some of the systems they might not be aware of. And so I think it's different within an urban setting than it is in other school counseling models, just because of the diverse needs and experiences of people living within different populations.
I want to also ask you, Dr. Gilmore, mental health is such a big thing right now, and it becomes sometimes you're the mental health professional. You're the crisis manager. You are the one that needs to be responsive to all the crisis that comes as far as mental, emotional, and that sometimes becomes the model, is that responsiveness. How do you help support counselors, to meet the needs of mental health, but also meet their roles of academic advising and support services?
Absolutely. And really that comes in the form as the executive director as far as advocacy. A few years ago, our district really took a bold step. We had what we used to call light counselors, which were school counselors who served in a almost like a supporting capacity to be able to address some of the mental health needs. Taking on this role, I was able to kind of work with our leadership, and our board approved revising that position to make it more of a mental health professional. That has allowed us to be able to hire licensed mental health professionals that can actually serve in a role that we want to make sure that our school counselors are not necessarily serving in. School counselors aren't necessarily equipped sometimes to be able to address the entire mental health needs of students. And that's where it's important to have multiple roles. So often, because of the need, especially after COVID, there was such a need of addressing mental health. School counselors were using so much of their time working with, and they still are working with students who are struggling or families that are in need of mental health resources. Um, I've just been allowed to hire mental health professionals, and in spaces where I haven't been allowed to hire mental health professionals, working with outside organizations to be able to offer telehealth therapy, working with our local community agencies to be able to partner so that we can have spaces to refer students to. Whereas our counselors are serving in a role of referral, but they're not the primary person responding to those mental health needs at all times, because that's really outside of their scope. And they have additional needs that they need to take care of. While we're still being available to help students from a mental health standpoint, our school counselors also provide the advising, and within their comprehensive school counseling program, they need time to be able to do that.
Yes. Dr. Brown?
Well, I would say that the challenges, as has been stated, is that the family units and the cultural um, challenges that our families face in urban school counseling districts, we have to be aware and acknowledge that. And so, one of the things that we did was offer surveys to try to get backgrounds of what challenges families were having. And we use those surveys to uh, partner with outside agencies. One survey I remember we took, most kids had seen someone shot, and so that was a big impact on the academic outcomes of students. And so, partnering with others, not the school counselors, our job and role was to know and uncover the needs. And then we reached out to the external partners to help support that work. But devising systems, and I love student surveys to get student voice out, to have the opportunities for counselors to have individual touch points with all of their students, and working through these non-counseling duties such that they can have these touch points to really know the backstory of students is the urban school counseling model. You cannot make kids successful unless you know what's really bothering them. And with the large caseloads that we see, sometimes counselors don't get a chance to have a touch point with all of their kids. But the challenge is to figure out how that could happen, and there's ways to uncover information and then take that data to the administrators to advocate for additional supports, because the urban counseling scene can really be so stressful, and that's why a lot of people don't want to do it. They were like, what, my friends who were in suburbia, they were like, you do this. Yes, we do it all, but we have to have a plan to help kids, and that plan is in collaboration. The other thing is that we did intentional outreach to parents and held ourselves accountable for bringing all parents into the environment, and helping them understand the developmental needs of their teens and others. And so having intentional parent programs was another thing that we did from the district level to support the counselors in the schools. We ran parent universities every other month. That was a concept that got the attention of a lot of people, but that cultural responsiveness to help the academic process was what was really needed.
So, I think back about my school counseling experience in a school. And when I looked to doing more leadership, I was told, go get a degree in leadership, become an administrator. And so that's what I did. I said, okay, well, I work really closely with principals and administrator as a school counselor. So I decided to go into a principal program. They never talked in the whole entire principal program about school counseling. I was raising my hand all the time. Well, this is what the school well, what about the school counselor? What's about, And so the next question I have is really about transformation and how school counselors leaders can effectively support and implement counseling transformation. And I say that because sometimes I know if I was on the district level, I don't know if I would have had the skill to do so. But could you just tell me a little bit about how a district director thinks about and supports transformation at the district level? And let's see, we'll start with you, Dr. Brown, because I know you have done a lot of transformation in Chicago Public Schools. You have transformed other school counselors by training them. So I'm going to let you go and start with this one.
Well, I can say that I was fortunate enough to be a part of the Urban School Counselor Initiative with the College Board when I went to the scary place of district level leadership. The other thing is that I just received my doctorate in school leadership. So I had the principal certificate, the superintendent certificate. So when I went to district office, people respected that. And I also had champions who believed in my ability to say what was needed. And you have to have a champion. And so my superintendent, who was Arnie Duncan at the time, and my direct supervisor, Greg Darniter, they believed in school counseling and opened the path for me to lead from that perspective. And we did a lot of transformation, especially around the principals, as you mentioned, Jennifer, because when I called a twice-year meeting with the principals and their counselors to come to a meeting, this is all the high school counselors and principals, the principals were mad. Well, why do I have to come? What do you would you need me to meet with those people for? But we had the counselors organized, as Dr. Jackson said, you have to show your value. So we were using data, setting goals. We could report our outcome data, and that really aligned to their work. But one of the big things we were able to achieve is that we aligned the principal's evaluation to the school counselor's evaluation. So because of the same KPIs and goals were on the counselor's evaluation that matched the principal's evaluation, that made them understand that we had great value and that principal counselor leadership role was really enhanced because of that. But you have to have a champion, but you have to have a vision. And so Pat Martin helped me to lay out my vision as a district director for what I wanted to see and accomplish, wrote it down, made it plain. And so when I was in high spaces and in meetings, I could put forth the plan so that people didn't hear me talk it, they could see it written out. And I had the blessings of champions who helped me institute a lot of policy and practice changes. But I could tell you a lot, but the main one was the principal council leadership. But I would also say vertical alignment is important. And we also called meetings between the middle grades and the high schools to look at the progress of student failure at the ninth grade level. That was a really big initiative too. We had a big summer transition program for all the freshmen. People had thought we were crazy for doing it, but the counselors were leading this work, and we had great success to start the students on their pathway to success during high school entry and not starting at grades 11 and 12.
Dr. Gilmore, how about you and your position of transformation?
Absolutely. You know, In an urban school district, many times as the leader or even your school counselors, they're not often able to attend professional development because of the immediate needs of students. So often, the fear of a counselor not being on campus or you as the district leader not being available when the perception is that a crisis may occur prohibits you from attending. I too have a champion in our superintendent for professional development and the growth of myself and our counselors. As the district leader, I attend conferences with my superintendent. I attend the superintendent's conference midwinter that occurs in Texas so that I can hear directly the latest information regarding school safety, school finance, how things are happening from a college career military perspective, how it relates to accountability. And that way I'm able to bring back information for school counselors, but also to be able to have the discussions and to be able to implement programs for our district. In addition, our superintendent allocated funding for me to be able to send our school counselors to our state level conference, which occurs in our area, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we too adopted an evaluation system, the TSAS, which for proficiency states that the counselor must attend regional or state level conferences. So adopting an evaluation that really prioritizes professional development and having leadership that supports the professional development and growth of counselors has really transformed our program because we're able to not only receive the information firsthand, but we're able to pivot through times when we need information, and we're able to provide our families with the most updated information within a timely manner, which is so important working in an urban school district.
Go ahead, Dr. Jackson.
I would say I echo all the things that the ladies have said, but I also want to say some things that have helped me and have helped counselors in general, even if you're at the campus or the district level. Get involved in your state organization for school counseling. You want to make sure that you are networking and connected. Also, you need to have a group of thought partners. So wherever you are, there's usually some school districts that are right around you. Make sure that you're reaching out, especially if you aspire to be at the district level or you're already at the district level. Make sure that you're reaching out to the different leaders that are in a similar role than you at different districts. If you're at the campus level, you may reach out to people in the same, different campuses, but at the district level, it's important for you to see and know what other districts are doing so you can glean ideas from them and have just a more of like a thought partner group. And that's been very helpful for me in my journey, is connecting with the different leaders in the districts that are close to me so we can learn from each other. You also need to have a mentor. Where do you want to be? And wherever you want to be, whatever position that is, try to find somebody that's already there so they can mentor you. They can kind of help you see what barriers, what other learning you need to know. I know for me, as moving to the district level, an area that I struggled with is knowing school finance. And so learning about when we had ESSER funds for COVID, learning how to do title funds, that helped me better equip counselors because I was able to provide more resources for them because I knew the different funding sources, the federal funding sources and the state funding sources, so that I could advocate and use those monies. So making sure that you are definitely learning that. And last but not least, if you're going to the district level or if you're already there, invest in an executive coach. Many times it's very important for you to have an executive coach that is from the corporate side and not the school side, because there's a lot of things that this is a business at the end of the day. It is a business. So yes, we're going to be advocating for kids. We're going to be promoting our comprehensive school counseling program, but you can glean some really great business practices from the corporate sector. So my executive level team, I pay for executive coaching for myself and them because I feel like it's important for them to know their selves and know their leadership style and be able to hone that so that they can grow the individuals that are in the campus that they are working for to serve.
Love that. Love that.
Jennifer, I
Go
want to
ahead.
just bring one more point up about the professional development and this leadership. So to your point, um, getting this leadership credential was important. And so what I did was established a cohort for counselors to get their principal certificates. So I talked to a local university, we did it on a school site, and as a result, 30 counselors got their principal credentials. Because that just got everybody's attention and they understood the principal side. And at the end of the day, one of the things that motivated me was the principal was always leaving the building to me. And I'm like, what? I don't have you leaving the building to me. And so that was one of the things that I did. And the second thing was I was able to pull all of the counselors, 400 high school counselors, out of the buildings every month for a half day for professional development. And that was a big thing because as everybody has said, the principals had a fit what they're leaving the building. We can't be without them. But my champion let me do that. And so if you're a district level leader, you must try to put in a system where you can have ongoing professional development and touch points with the people who are practitioners in the field. And the last thing I want to mention is that I always, when you're at the district level, you lose sight of the daily practices of the counselors. So I formed a district leadership team. They met with my supervisor and sometimes with Arnie every quarter to talk about their experiences at the practice level. So you cannot lead in this space by yourself. You have to have these feedback loops, consistently hearing what your counselors are facing so that they will follow your lead and they will see you as their advocate.
You know, you also talked about, each of you talked about data. And I think I want to just make sure we touch a little bit on data and access the data and what you're doing to support counselors utilizing data. And I'll start with you, Dr. Gilmore, to talk a little bit about the data and the support for professional development.
So one thing that we're working on is consolidating data from multiple systems. In a large urban school district, you'll often find yourself, or at least I know that we do find ourselves, where we have so many platforms and so many systems that sometimes talk to one another and sometimes do not. Where data is expected for everything, and everyone's collecting data. And so what's been important has been really working through looking at how we can work with other departments to consolidate. If they already are purchasing something, what are ways that I could save costs to reduce some of that? If there's a system that we don't have, really trying to meet, whether that's with the vendor or with the department that oversees it, to see how can we also integrate our data. So two examples that I could give that I've worked through this year has been, we were paying for a college and career readiness platform, and our CTE department was too. And our CTE department was paying for teachers to use it and collect the industry-based certifications, whereas we wanted career exploration for students, and that's the support that counselors provided. Working with our CTE department, we were able to reduce that cost as a district and save money because we didn't need both systems. We just needed to work together and to really be aware of what other departments are really using. And another would be surveys. We've sent out a lot of surveys where counselors were creating, and we found out that our research and evaluation department, and this is through meeting and collaboration and working with other departments, that they already purchased this platform to create surveys. And so just not being afraid to ask as a district leader, hey, can our counselors use this? Or can I send this out from the district level? And being just surprised by the overwhelming positive response from other departments, from community members who have access to tools that can help us provide better data to counselors, that can actually help us be able to provide better data to the campus, to be able to integrate it into their improvement plans, to be able to share out with families. And I think we've spent so much time within spreadsheets and collecting the data that we didn't even realize how much data we really had in front of us, and how accessible the data was once we kind of remove some of those additional barriers. So for us, data has been a way for us to be able to tell our story, to tell what the school counselors do. And also from a district perspective, a return on investment, and how through purchasing these items or paying for these different platforms has really been able to help benefit students, and then ways we can consolidate and save, because we've worked with other departments to see what do we have already in district and how can we best utilize that as well.
Anybody else just want to add to the data part, and then we'll move on to the next question?
I can add to having the data. I totally agree with Dr. Gilmore, especially at urban system. You have many systems and many departments that have a system that they like. And it's best to just kind of have one so everybody can be on the same page. One of the things that we've experienced is that making sure you're advocating for what data your campus counselors need. And so many, made sure that counselors had access to like scheduling and different things like that. But we need access to the discipline data. We need access to the attendance data. And so one of the things that we've worked at our district, and I'm sure many others on the call, is making sure that our counselors understand how discipline and attendance impact overall student success, and how they could use that data as a metric, and how they should be tracking that as well, and looking at the chronically absent students, and looking at the students are chronically going to ISS, OSS, and DAEP. And so making sure that one, they have access to those systems, and two, they know how to use those systems. Because sometimes people will make assumptions of what counselors need and what data they need to have access to, and just making everybody aware that there are many facets to the counselor's role, and we can help support the district's initiatives in all areas, not just mental health or college and career.
Yep. And I would say that when I first started the work at the district level, the first friend I made was the data analyst. And so if you're a district director, you have got to meet the people who control the data, because the comprehensive model has data as a central core. And if counselors have to do multiple clicks to get it, you cannot do the tracking and monitoring progress toward graduation correctly. And so in Chicago, I happened to be on a committee. They were changing data systems. And I told the people who were making it up, can you make it like Southwest Airlines, where it just bings when a kid falls below a threshold? And so they would just turn around and look at me like, who are you? And I would just say, it's got to be user friendly, and the counselors have got to have easy access. One of the things we do in Chicago is bag reports, behavior, attendance, grade reports. Counselors run that data and give the reports to students and parents, such that they have intentional touch points around the status. And so data is really, really a big thing. Counselor leaders have to understand data themselves. I have worked with district directors who don't use data in their practice, and because they're focused on other things, but you have to be really knowledgeable about use of data. Talk to your data analyst, your whole data department, to say, how can we make it the data into a format that will allow the counselors to do the work? And that's by creating student lists. All the data is in the system. We just have to figure out the algorithms to get it out in a way that's friendly and usable for the practitioners.
You guys are sounding like superwomen right now. And so I'm going to ask you a question that someone is sitting and they're like, I want to go in district leadership, and I don't necessarily feel like I can measure up to all the women that's on this panel right now. I really want you to give some examples of how you've been challenged by the landscape in the counseling work, and how you navigated through it. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Jackson.
Well, I think the first thing that I would say is, if you're not alone. Everybody has those feelings of, am I enough? Everybody in the room has all these degrees or all this and that. Do I match up? Will I be successful? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. So when you're feeling self-conscious, when you're feeling worried, most people in that room are feeling the exact same way that you are. So sometimes you've just got to know yourself. You got to know your worth. You got to make sure, like I mentioned before, make sure you're tapping into those networks, those mentors, those think tanks. And you'll know that when you start talking to people in the field, you know just as much as they do, as much as they do, if not more. You know what I mean? We learn from each other. Everybody on this call didn't learn all this stuff at once. These are things that we learned over time, with experience, uh, talking with mentors, uh, just just living. So I think what I would say is, if anybody is in the situation where they're like, I definitely want to be a leader at the district level in the area of counseling, just make sure that you're looking at the data, like we said, but bet on yourself, and know your worth. And make sure you put yourself in an environment in which you can grow. Dr. Brown discussed how she went into her district, and she champions there, people that were going to support her vision. And that's one of the things that I see, that counselor leaders get discouraged if they're in a system in which they're not supported by their supervisors. So that's something that, when you're looking for elevating, make sure you're elevating in an environment that is going to appreciate the transformation you want to bring to the environment. It's hard for a seed to grow in tainted soil. So if you are not going to be in an environment that is going to be supportive, then know yourself, know your worth, and find one that is, so that you can be transformation and change lives.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I would say that it's a scary place, district level leadership, because you're responsible for those counselors. I just want to emphasize that you have to be the leader that others respect. So, how you present yourself as a leader is very important. My goal always at district level was, when I walked into the room, they would want to know who I was and why was I talking the way that I spoke. So that I, to Dr. Jackson's point, always brought something, had a data report, had a professional journal, and I did a lot of conferences and joined my professional organizations, such that I could make friends across the nation, like the ladies on the camera. I love them because you don't always find people who think and act like you. And so having that network is so very important. But you, as a district leader, have got to leave your district and go out and find others who are like you. Because once you start getting results and publicizing the results, oh my God, we just talked about school counseling everywhere. People got sick. They would say, "Here comes Joyce Brown. She's going to talk about those counselors." Right. I am. And so when you're a leader at district level, you have to be that leader so that the counselors that you're serving know that you represent them and they will follow you. And it's been my great honor to have counselors who didn't know me follow my crazy vision because they heard the passion for having students succeed. But I elevated everybody in the process. It just wasn't me. We were a team. We worked together to get magnificent results.
And I definitely echo what the ladies have said. Leadership can be lonely, and so know that that would be my advice, knowing that going in. So that's why it's so important to find, like Dr. Brown just said, like-minded, or even non-like-minded people, so that you can challenge yourself, because the growth part, um, it's a discovery, it's a self-discovery journey every day. You're learning things about you. Your values are tested as you're trying to implement systems and programs. You'll question your thoughts, and you might even think, is this right? Or am I crazy? Am I the only person that's seeing this? And sometimes you might be, but it's okay to pivot when you need to, and it's okay to stand firm and move forward. There are going to be times where you might be the only person who's seeing the vision in the moment, and that's okay. Trust yourself, trust your gut, and go for it, because you're doing what's in the best interest of the students, and you're making decisions that are going to really help change lives. And not everyone will see it in the beginning, but as long as you're doing what's in the best interest, they will see it and people will come along. And like Dr. Brown said, people will follow. So finding people who you can consult with, um, speak with, if you're interested and you're currently sitting in the seat of a school counselor, speak with the person who's in your director role. Really learn about it, get involved in your state level or local organizations so that you can make those connections. It's so important for you to just connect with others and learn more about it. But take that leap of faith. If you're on the fence right now, this is just your sign. It's time. We need you in leadership and we need people who are ready for the challenge. And so take it now.
All right, we have 5 minutes left. I thought I had more questions, but it looks like we're going to have to bring some things to a close. But you're going to get an opportunity to connect with us. We're going to put on the screen some contact information. But I do want to, as we close out, just leave with a couple of remarks. I just want one sentence, real quick. What is one golden nugget about what's most crucial to step into this urban school counseling leadership role? Just if you had to give one golden nugget. And I'll start with Dr. Brown.
Have no small vision. That's what my mentor told me when I stepped in. Live at the forefront of creating actions to accelerate student opportunities.
Dr. Jackson.
I guess I will quote in the words of Drake, know yourself and know your worth. Because if you don't, it'll be hard for you. So know what you can do it, and know your worth in any room that you step into.
And I would say address systemic issues because that's what truly leads to long-term improvement. So when you see it and there's no system, address it and develop one.
First of all, I just want to thank you. I think that this was an absolutely a wonderful conversation. We did get some comments that folks said that this is wonderful information and they were glad that you were sharing. But I know that there's folks that are listening and that will listen to the recording of today's presentation and want to follow up and find out, how can I get more training? What can I do for my district? What can I do as a school council leader or a someone who's looking to go into school council leadership? So here on the screen, we have myself there, email address and phone number and website. And we also have Dr. Joyce Brown, who has CEO. She's the CEO of Joyce Brown Consulting Group, and she does lots of professional development. Please check her out, email her, look at her website. Take the opportunity to connect. We need good leaders in these positions. Things are challenging, as a society, things are challenging as a school district and a community, and we need folks that are willing to take the risk and have the courage to stand alone in that leadership and make movement for all students. Again, I want to thank you all for joining us today, and I'm going to go ahead and put a survey out in the comments link so we can find out how we can improve what we're doing, if there's other topics that you all would like to hear. Again, I'd like to thank our panelists. Thank you all for joining us today.